Welcome to The Disruption Is Now. Join us on this enlightening journey as we explore how AI is impacting our jobs, careers, lives, and the human experience. Each episode, host Greg Matusky will converse with visionaries and innovators at the forefront of AI, diving into its challenges, opportunities, and impact. So buckle up as we venture into the heart of disruption, and together, let's unfold the future.
It has been 1 year since the Disruption Is Now podcast was at HumanX, and it's a terrific conference, trade show, get-together, conflab of all the greatest minds in AI, something that we cover extensively here on Disruption Is Now because we're convinced it's going to disrupt everything we know about commerce, communications, and our culture. We're starting off this morning with Andrew McLeod, and he is the founder and CEO of a very interesting company called Certn, based in where? In British Columbia.
British Columbia, Canada, that's right.
400 people globally. And from what I understand, you're working to transform the hiring process, specifically about how you do background checks on individuals. Now, this sounds like a mundane kind of thing, but with what's happening in the world, it's anything but. Take it away, Andrew. Tell me a little bit about what's up.
I think boring businesses are kind of beautiful because there's so much opportunity to make things more efficient, to make things more impactful. And with Certn, our whole vision was, how do we empower people towards opportunity through trust? And how do we find the best talent globally? So it's a lot easier to find a great candidate that lives close to you, that it runs in the same circles. But the best talent in the world doesn't always live in your circle. So the whole vision of the company was, how do we find the best candidates globally and allow you to screen them to make sure that they're not bad actors, that they are who they say they are, and that they're going to do great work.
And that's the power of loose connections, right? If those people who are closest to you, they know exactly what you know. That's not really power. It's the people who are friends with the people who are close to you or globally and have some sort of connection that can bring in new thoughts, new talent, new hiring opportunities.
Exactly. And the world is so much smaller than it's ever been. We talk about AI here. AI in North America is actually not necessarily at the forefront. You might want to bring people in from other parts of the world where they're more AI native. They haven't had to leave the SaaS world to come to AI, that they've started in AI. And the adoption curve, the speed to value, the time to knowledge is so much faster than it's ever been. So are you hiring someone in San Francisco or New York or Alabama, or are you hiring someone in Nigeria or France or wherever else in the world?
So where do you think the hot markets are for that kind of talent that have a little bit more of a jump on an operational level and how to deploy and use AI?
So I would say that the strategic level, there's still the most opportunity in North America. I mean, San Francisco, New York, still somewhat the center of the universe when it comes to the ideas. But in terms of the execution or practical use of AI, India, Pakistan, Nigeria, a whole bunch of other countries have a big head start and lower cost labor. So you've had people that have been able to focus on this stuff before it was commercially viable. So you've got people that actually have more experience working with AI and more time.
So how do you find these individuals? How do you find the pockets of opportunity in a country like Nigeria? Do you have local representatives on the ground, or is it all, again, AI generated and digitally deployed?
So we mostly do the verification of the candidates. So our clients find their own candidates, and then we screen them to make sure they are who they say they are and they have the skills that they say they do. The information that I have is actually mostly from feedback from our clients that are hiring more in these different regions than they have in the past, and just asking why. Why are you hiring more people from Nigeria than you have in the past? And there's a lot of really great things that they're saying about, say, AI. Also, from a cost perspective, a lot of people are looking to get to profitability. It's not 2020 or 2021 anymore, where it's growth at all costs. You're looking at the tech industry saying, okay, how do we build this profitably and scalably? We're leveraging AI, but are there low cost markets where the things that we're still doing, the things that we're still coding with humans are being done in a way that's cost effective?
Going to the verification process, because this is really important. With so many deep fakes and the ability to scam somebody over over digital channels. What are you seeing, and how does that play out with Certn?
So the big thing is identity verification is absolutely critical. So the cornerstone of our business is making sure that the person is who they say they are. That is the number one source of fraud, especially in employment. It's also big in, financial services and pretty much everything. We're seeing the big trend right now in employment is offshore scams. So people will buy an American identity. So you go on the dark web, you get somebody's social security number, their name, and their address history, and then they apply for a job and pass a background check as if they're someone that's domestic in the United States. They set up a bank account, but then they're pulling that information offshore. So that's the number one scam that we see. So what you want to do is you want to verify somebody's identity, and then you verify the credentials tied to that identity. So who is that person? Where do they live? And what are the things that they have actually done?
So is this more on the individual level, the scammers and the fraudsters, or is it nation states that want to place people inside tech companies for obvious reasons who are enemies of the U.S.?
It's both. I would say we see a lot of North Korean scams, and those are typically state-sponsored scams to bring U.S. dollars.
Is North Korea difficult to smoke out, or is that an easier realm of sophistication?
Everyone's getting more and more difficult to smoke out. So I would say industry in general is having a really hard time with North Korea. There are signals that our system has that would tell you if somebody is actually part of a North Korean scam. Making sure that you're verifying the individual and their location based on IP addresses, making sure that the person that is being verified is actually the person. So you have a lot of lookalike scams.
So what's the motivation of North Korea? Is it to create chaos, to generate profit, or is it espionage?
I would say most of the time it's actually just to generate revenue. So they're just trying to generate income around sanctions.
For the state.
For the state.
So these are young people that apply for jobs. They have great AI or technical skills, and they're actually working for the state.
So it's amazing when you do interviews with these candidates. A lot of times it's actually an AI that you're doing an interview with. And there are a few tells that you can see in the interview process, because screening is actually the last step in the process in most cases. But when you're doing interviews with these scammers, their AI has been better than ours. So imagine having an interview with a deepfake, with an AI that is, there's no lag. It is as if you're having a conversation with a human. They have LinkedIn profiles that have a ton of engagement, a ton of interaction, and some really great experience. And you're thinking, wow, this is the right person for me to hire. And you go into this interview, and the interview goes flawlessly, and it turns out that it's a deepfake.
Isn't it wild that we're talking about this? Like, this is something we wouldn't even have thought of 5 years ago, 4 years ago, that you couldn't identify somebody in a live call. I mean, that would seem to be the final countdown is a live call. But even then, it's impossible to tell sometimes.
That's exactly it. I mean, there are little things that you can do. I mean, you've probably heard of, get them to put their hand in front of their face. There are certain things that
show the outlet and see
exactly,
if it's,
exactly.
North Korean.
There are certain things that you can do to test an AI, but you don't even think about those. 5 years ago, we weren't thinking, I'm going to show up on a Zoom call and it's not going to be a human, but they're going to interact like a real human. This is totally game changing, and there's so much opportunity, but at the same time there's a lot of risk.
Tell me a little bit about your journey. I saw that you went to the University of Sydney, I believe your degree's from, and you're now in British Columbia. How did you get into this realm of technology?
I mean, I like to say I've never had a real job. So
so you're one of the avatars doing the scamming.
Exactly. And I mean, I'm born in Canada. I love to surf. So when I had the opportunity to go do a master's degree in Australia, I couldn't pass it up. But I've always kind of had my own business. And for me, one of the biggest challenges in my life was I'd move to a new country and I would have to start from scratch. So I'm from Nova Scotia. I was living in Toronto. I moved to New York. I got to New York. I had no credit history, no job history. I couldn't get a bank account. I couldn't find a place to live. Meanwhile, in Canada, I had perfect credit and I had my own home and I had all of these opportunities, and I moved to New York and I didn't have any of those. So the idea really came around, how do we give people how do we build trust with organizations so they'll give good people access to opportunities? I mean, imagine if I came from somewhere else. I mean, from the top of the Empire State Building, you can basically see Canada. And yet somehow, you know, as a person with A+ credit, I wasn't able to get a place to live or a credit card without putting down a equivalent deposit.
So where do you go from here? Is it more products, more services? Is it building out that global footprint? I mean, to grow Certn, what are the key steps you have to take?
So I want to break the background screening space. I believe that people should be able to show up with their credentials. So you show up, you apply for a job, you apply for a loan, you apply for an apartment, you apply for any opportunity, and you bring your own credentials. So the government issues you an ID that you have that's verified. Your past employment is verified. You have, you know, I call it NFTs for degrees, you know, jokingly, but like imagine you have an NFT or a digital immutable thing in your Apple Wallet or your Google Wallet that you can then share to get a job. And that helps reduce the number of frauds. And it gives candidates credibility when they're applying for their next opportunity.
So how would you flip that script? Because you're B2B right now, and that would be direct to the individual, if I understand right. No?
Well, so this benefits the business just as much as the individual, because when you think right now, and we use a hiring process, when we post a job for a software engineer right now, we're getting 500 plus applications from all over the world. Like, how do you bring that down to 50 or a manageable number that you can reliably say, like, these are the best candidates? And the candidates that are showing up with verified credentials, with proof of what they've done and their kind of verified resume, those are the most beneficial. So instead of going through a screening process at the very end, how do you allow the candidates to show up pre-screened? And so it's still a benefit to businesses. There is a kind of a three-sided marketplace to that, because we now work with a lot of issuers around the world. So think like police, employers, universities, post-secondary institutions, professional organizations like, say CPA or College of Nurses, to issue these credentials that then you can have and you can apply for a job or an opportunity with.
Well, it was great to meet you here at HumanX.
Thanks for having me.
Have a great show. We're just kicking off our first sessions here this morning. What do you hope to get out of the show?
I just hope to meet great people and learn more about what's going on in the world of AI. It's moving so quickly that it's nice to get all these great minds together and just
to really dominate the verification in the hiring process.
Exactly.
All right, Andrew. Hey, it was a great conversation, and best of luck.
Thanks for having me.
One of the great aspects of HumanX is just the range of companies and entrepreneurs you get to meet with. We just came off a security and verification firm, and now we immediately go into robotics with David Schulhof, who is the CEO and founder of Toborlife, which is a partner and a developer along with Unitree. As you know, Unitree is the high-flying Chinese robotics company that really sets the world on fire with both their humanoid robots and their robotic dogs. David, did I get that right?
Yeah. Thank you very much. Great to be here.
Now, how'd you get into this? Okay, you're a serial entrepreneur, and you were looking around, and you say, look, I'm going to go with a market leader. How did it unfold? Tell me.
I've done a number of startups over the years, and I was kind of semi-retired, really enjoying life, doing multiple yoga classes a day and such as that. But
then your wife got sick of you.
Yeah, well, I needed something to occupy myself. I really needed something to focus my mind on. So I asked the universe to bring me an opportunity. And the robotic revolution going on just was perfect for my skill set and what I wanted.
So how did you become a partner with Unitree? And then let's go into the development side. But right now, let's focus on how you came upon this opportunity and what it's like to be a partner with a Chinese company here in the States.
Sure. Well, I've done business, other startups I've had international partners before, so I have some experience there. But I basically just asked the universe to bring me a good partner, and then somebody brought me together with Unitree. It was a mutual introduction, and it just fit very well with what we do and the skills of my company and what Unitree needed here, so we were able to form a partnership.
Talk real broadly, if you can. I'm always fascinated by the Chinese approach to robotics and how quickly they're moving. What do you see? I've
been to China twice now in the last year for robotic conferences and speaking with Unitree and such. And, the Chinese are very far ahead of us, I think, in hardware manufacturing. We still, I think, have the edge in software. But in terms of scaling robotics and mass manufacturing of robotics, they have a great infrastructure now. I think there's over 150 robot companies in China. and they're just moving very fast.
Yeah, I think I was listening to the Moonshot podcast, and they mentioned there's about 150 robotics companies. And they analogize it to early automobile companies, and they're certainly in for some consolidation in the Chinese model. And they were talking about Unitree in the head start they had. Let's go into the other side of this, the development application. So you get a unit, right? And then what do? Do you customize it for the American market or for specific verticals and needs? How's that work, and where do you come in?
Well, so we bring in large quantities of Unitree robots. They have many different models. We stock them in our Mountain View warehouse and facility. And we do testing on them. We prep them before we ship them out for customers. We've been developing our technology, our software products to go on top of the Unitree robots, which are kind of like a platform, just like your phone is a platform for apps. The robots tend to be a platform for either various hardware and software. So we're developing our own solutions. We call it Tobor Harness, so we're harnessing the robot's power that way. And our first products won't be shipping until about June. So we currently aren't shipping any of our own softwares, but we've been in development. Our first ones will come out June. They'll be introducing one every quarter or so from there on, based on our schedule.
So tell me some of your the use cases and the companies that you're working for and providing these robots for. What do they see them? Where are they putting them within the workflow?
Sure. Well, first off, it's such a new area, these types of robots. I mean, there's been robots in manufacturing before, but they're very specific, dedicated robots. These general purpose robots, humanoids and dog form factors, are very new. And as you mentioned, Unitree is one of the companies that's very much scaling and out in front of that. But the main markets have been for them research, development, education. Kind of like when the computer first came out, the home computer, the first people that bought them were programmers and developers so they could run their software on it and create applications that you and me would want a computer to have, right? So most of our market in the past year has been people, either startups or very large corporations or educational institutions, buying the robots so that they can run their software, do development, because generally people work on simulators for a long time, but then you eventually want to take your program that you built in a simulator and run it on a real robot. So the market's being driven largely by that. But now we're starting to see, and I think this year will be the year really starts to blossom and next year explode, are specific applications where the robot can function on its own and not be used for research, but actual work. Some of those applications are inspection and patrolling. So the dog form factor, which is more mature than the humanoid form factor, is already being used that way, where it can patrol an area like a security guard might before and report anything. Instead of a walkie-talkie, though, it has a built-in modem, and it can take pictures and videos. It can be trained to look for anomalies like cars or people walking places they shouldn't be, and then it can be programmed to act on that, usually alerting somebody.
So you made a good point that we're at this point where a lot of companies are experimenting, learning about it. And this is something that always interests me. I interviewed the lead at the Stanford Robotics Lab, and he was kind of dubious on the human form factor. What's your thoughts? Will that be the ultimate manifestation of robotics?
Yeah, I'm familiar with the article, I think, and while there's good points there, I think we're missing the bigger picture. So
what is that?
Well, I think this is like electricity, and electricity had an impact everywhere. Like, there's not a specific market for electricity. It's like water. It's just something we use every day and in our lives. So I think the humanoid robots are going to take that role. Yes, they're very primitive now. They're limited in their capacities. They can only do very simple things, and even that is difficult. But you got to start somewhere. So the humanoid form factor is that way because the world is built for us. So the humanoid is a great form factor because everything is designed around our form. So it's going to allow the robot to go everywhere and do everything that we can do. Yes, we're starting at a very primitive level, but it's going to accelerate very fast. So I couldn't disagree more. I think humanoid robots will be everywhere in the next few years.
You're in the Elon Optimus school then, as far as what he sees.
Yeah, it's just, I think it's inevitable.
More humanoid robots than humans is one of the things.
Yeah, like he said, that the robots will run out of things to do for humans eventually.
Right.
I think that's right.
The robots will build the robots.
Yeah, and then they'll build robot cities and roads connecting those robot cities. Yeah.
This is true. Well, David, hey, it's been a fascinating conversation. Anytime we're into robotics, it just really triggers your imagination of what will be. So I thank you for your time. How does someone get in touch with you?
Sure. Well, we have a website called Toborlife.ai. That's robot spelled backwards, by the way, is Tobor, Toborlife.ai. Or they can look on our social media. We're all over social media as well. Just look up Tobor Life.
And as part of his appearance, he's very kindly offered to give us a dog for our next trade show. So we're excited about our Unitree dog, and we will be training it in upcoming episodes of Disruption Is Now. Thanks for being with us, David, and stay tuned because we have more coming from HumanX. It's a great show. It's really been busy on the floor, and we're learning a lot, so stick around. And we're back at HumanX. We're day 2. First day was exciting. We got a lot of podcast segments in for the Disruption Is Now. And we even squeezed in a Philadelphia Phillies, San Francisco Giants baseball game. And our Fightin' Phils went down without even trying last night. But we're trying today and we're ready to go. And our first interview is with Jim Larrison. And he's the co-founder of a company called Larridin. I think this is a really important topic to start with today because we're going to be talking about adoption of AI within the enterprise. That is the number one achievement on everyone's mind, is how do we show value for the investment of AI, but more importantly, how do we deploy it through our entire enterprise so that we see real and tangible and measurable benefits. Jim, did I get any of that right?
That's exactly right.
Terrific. I'm excited to talk to you because this is the number one issue. Now we have all these tools at our disposal, and we have a lot of pressure from the C-suite and the board to deploy AI throughout the organization. And I think where a lot of us struggle is how do you do that, one, and two, how do you measure it? So take it from there. Give me some insights from what you're seeing.
So what Larridin does, like you said, is we measure AI adoption, engagement, and proficiency across the org. So one of the big problems companies have is they've mass adoption across the entire org by department, by team. There's shadow AI. There's thousands of applications in AI. Actually, our database, I think, has somewhere around 120,000 AI apps that we've identified. This isn't at every company, but there's a lot of applications that employees have brought in that they're using. Now, some of that's good and some of it's bad. Some of it's approved, some of it isn't. But what Larridin does is it starts with giving you visibility of what applications are employees using, like the ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, those type of things. Those are the easy ones. But then even within a product like HubSpot has an AI module called Breeze. Are people using that? And then once you go from understanding are people actually using these products, what's the proficiency of use? Are people getting value out of it? Right? That's the holy grail, is you get an idea of people use a product, but are they actually using it to do their job? And are they actually getting some value out of these tools? And as you said, there's a lot of spend, right? What we see a lot of times, we deal with CFOs and CIOs, and there's a battle between the two. Every CFO I meet with asks, we're worried we're spending so much money on this. It's sort of out of control. We get overage bills constantly. We have no idea how to rein this in. We don't know what works and what doesn't. I'm scared the board's going to come reckoning me for why do we spend all this money? And the CIO is basically the opposite. They're like, we need to keep investing. We need to stay ahead. We're feeling behind. Our competitors are going to beat us. And we're sort of in the middle, and we're trying to solve that problem.
Help me separate the fact from the myth, right? I mean, I have heard this, I think it's a Boston Consulting Group study over and over, that 95% of enterprise AI deployments fail. I personally don't believe that because I've looked at the study, and I don't think the study, it was done by Harvard, I'm sorry.
Sure.
I don't think the study was well structured. But when you come in, what do you see? What's the baseline when you come in? Where is it? How far has it been adopted into the enterprise, and how much do we have to go?
Oh, it's at the early stages. We're really in the first inning, basically. There's
in adoption.
In adoption. I mean, if you measured adoption based on people using a tool, maybe it's further along, but are they using it effectively, and is it helping them actually do their job, or are they becoming more productive? That's the big question mark. And reality is, most of the customers we're working with, now we're making an impact on this, but they're really struggling to figure out, like, how do I retrain my entire workforce, who have trained over the last 100 years in some cases, to do their job differently, while there's all this resistance in the org to what's this new thing that's going to replace me one day.
And it is a huge change management challenge. I know from my own firm, I have 130 employees. We're not a large enterprise. And getting adoption, right? The tools are the easy part.
Sure.
And the training is the easy part, really. Anybody can set up training with what's available in the world today. But what's really hard is getting that behavioral change among people, even who want to do it, sometimes don't realize just how effective AI could be in giving them new solutions or suggesting ways to use it that they don't even know.
Right.
So what do you see on that front? I mean, are there super adopters out there? How do you leverage those people?
Yeah, that's a great question. So that's how we actually work with customers to start. We basically segment your entire workforce. We tell you who those AI trailblazers are. We tell you what good looks like. What are the people that are doing the best at using AI actually doing in your org?
What does good look like? Let's start from there. What's good
Sure.
look like,
Well,
Jim?
it depends on the company, right? Like we work with every industry possible, from manufacturing to healthcare to finance, you name it. Let's take an example of a tech company, right? Good looks like I'm using AI to supplement what I do every day in my work. It's up-leveling my skill set and allowing me to focus on value add to the business rather than just doing rudimentary type work.
Say that again, because I think that's an important point. It's building value that wouldn't be there without AI.
Right.
And that's seen so brilliantly in some organizations, but it's defeated in others. So
sure.
Walk me through, if you have a trailblazer, how do you seep that throughout the whole hierarchy?
So it's basically giving you a sort of playbook or a recipe book that says, here's the things that we know work. Right. I'll give you a real life example.
Yeah,
we worked with
that.
a customer that looked at their sales org and identified the most proficient users of AI in their sales org. They identified the sellers that had the best close rate on their deals and then modeled that behavior. And some of the things they found was using certain AI tools resulted in a higher engagement with the prospect. Sending an order form through an AI tool with the notes from the meeting resulted in a response much quicker than the last. Like, these are very tactical things.
I love that example. I'll share with you my example. We just recently, in the last 3 weeks, adopted OpenClaw and agents. And we have one sales trailblazer, I would call him. And he's an intelligent guy. He has experience, or PR. He has experience in PR, so he understands the business very well. And we gave him an agent to write his sales proposals and to research prospects. Well, on my way flying out here, I had an email from him that said, I just had the best first call of my life with a prospect because of Glenn. That's the name of our sales agent. Glenn gave me all the background information, and instead of selling and going through a due diligence process, I simply talked to the CEO about the concerns and his points of pain that I already knew. And we closed the deal in 3 days.
Yeah.
And that's a real one pulled from my life. Where do you see adoption within the enterprise at the highest? Sales, marketing, operations, human resources?
Well, it's usually in the places with the biggest cost, as well as in the R&D development organizations, for sure. Those are always the trailblazers anyway. And by the way, a lot of times the trailblazers are coming from the bottom up. Like, this isn't top-down transformation.
Absolutely.
And this is where risk comes in, right? Like, you have multiple users. We found within our own customers, developers loading source code into tools that aren't approved, and all of a sudden all your IP is out in somewhere, right? And so there's a security component. We don't talk about security as much as governance, like training employees towards the right behaviors rather than locking them down from the bad. Be the carrot, not the stick.
Is there a big difference in the approach between the trailblazers and the, let's call them the
dabblers?
Not the dabblers, but those that are maybe lower on the hierarchy, but super excited about AI. Smart, young, 26-year-old kid who, does a business plan, does a website. He's a super creator. He creates 10 times things. He sees what AI can do. And then you have like your top salesperson who adopts it. Is there a difference in how you have to approach them to accept what's out there?
So yeah, 100%. So one of the things, the problem with the trailblazer is a lot of times they don't want to share best practices because they want to have the competitive edge, especially in sales. So if you figured out something that works, why would you share it with someone that you compete with in the sales process? Now the company wants you to do that. So where do we see that happen? So first of all, we expose that data and information so you know now what the recipe is. Then you give it to those eager workers that want to do AI but don't know how to apply it correctly. Usually those are less mature workers, right? They're newer workers to the workforce, and they're totally open to new processes and adopting new technology. And a lot of times they're your evangelists within the org because they can show how they can up level so quickly and actually pass people that have been in business for years by using these tools and applications in a way that's effective.
What has been, do you think, the most overhyped aspect of AI to date?
I think the most overhype is they're going to replace the entire workforce. That's not going to happen. I mean, the best analogy I have, it's sort of dated, is that the ATM was going to replace all the tellers, and there's more tellers now than there ever were. They just do more upskilled work, right? And I think that's what's going to happen. People aren't going to just lay off millions of people and then rely on agents to do all the work. I mean, obviously, there's going to be roles where that happens, offshore support, things like that. But in most knowledge workers, what we're going to see is the ability for people to perform at a higher level, add more value to the company, and actually ultimately drive more ROI.
Great. I want to close out with one more difficult question.
Sure.
Do you ever see purposeful sabotage of the AI to prevent it from taking jobs?
I would say, in a way. I mean, we wouldn't call it sabotage. We'd say it's resistance in a sort of controlled manner. So typically, and I don't want to profile, but if you say someone's been in their job for 25 years doing the same thing, and they are ready to retire in another 10 years, and they are good at their job, they've been promoted every 2 or 3 years, they have no excitement around AI at all. They don't understand. I've gotten conversations with those folks, and they're like, AI can't do my job. I've been doing it 25 years. There's no way it could do it. In reality, it can probably do 90% of it. Now, what they don't understand is they can actually provide more value to the company if they let that administrative work happen through agents or technology.
So you are the busiest guy at this at HumanX, because this is a solution that has a lot of problems out there to fill. So appreciate you being with us today. How can someone get in touch with you?
Reach our website is Larridin.com. You can email me at jim@Larridin.com. Very easy, and we'd love to talk to you.
Oh, I really appreciate your time. It's a fascinating concept. I know in my own firm, we've struggled somewhat with the deployment, but some of it is, in a small group, is kind of obvious, right? You find the bell cows, you share the victories, you don't penalize anyone for making a mistake, you simply correct it. You support it with a ton of training. I mean, this thing takes a lot. And the last thing that I have found is you never sell productivity or efficiency. Instead, you sell the ability to safeguard your job by mastering these tools so that in the future, you'll have a role in this economy. And that talk I give almost every other day in my firm. And it seems to work because most people want to make sure they'll have a viable career in the future and that they'll be contributing. So I think what you're doing is a real contribution. You're giving the enterprise visibility in that in order to create a better work-life balance and a better, more efficient and profitable business. So thanks for being with us.
Sure. And if you ever are looking for a job, we'd love to hire you as a salesperson.
We'll do it, man.
Right.
I got enough jobs right now.
I'm sure you do.
Thanks, Jim.
All right. It was nice to see you.
Bye-bye. And we continue here at HumanX with the Disruption Is Now podcast. I'm your host, Greg Matusky. It's been going very well. It's a big conference. Anyone and everyone who wants to learn more about AI is here. And we're going to take a little bit of a detour over what we've had this morning or so far, just because we're not going to go technical. We're here with Ross Fubini. He's the founder of XYZ Venture VC Fund here on the West Coast. And we're going to talk a little bit about what he looks for. But more than that, I'd like to get Ross's opinion on where the world is coming from, away from just products and services, but what AI will bring to us and the wreck that it will cause humanity. So we think. But why don't we talk a little bit about your fund first? So in your investments, a little bit about XYZ.
Sure. And Greg, thanks again so much for having me. XYZ is a early stage venture fund. I started in 2017. We're about $1.5 billion under management now. And all the work that we do starts very, very early, usually first investors into companies, and then we just concentrate that capital into those businesses.
And at that point, is it execution over idea, idea over execution?
So it's really interesting, actually. So the original theory I had about which founders to work with was believing that execution was going to overcome any challenges. And that's still true, but it's not the second thing that we look for. The first is, how is the market changing to the benefit of that company? There's an old adage that there's the surfer, the founder, the surfboard, our company, and then the wave. And without the wave, it is really hard to surf. And AI is not a wave. AI is a tide that's lifting all the boats.
Tsunami.
So, truly, like just changing so much of how companies get built, how people do their jobs, etc. So to answer your question, the main thing we're looking for now is what is changing in the market, and is there a market shift so that a company, our surfer and their surfboard, can benefit from that shift. And we've had a tremendous amount of success because we are large investors in companies like Andrew, Cape, Apex, people building core technologies for the government, areas of defense, which has been one exciting place that AI has driven a lot of change. And there's a lot of excitement, money, all that kind of good shit.
Yeah, I've got a philosophical question with regard to that, where the wave's going. Is it more that we shape the future, or that there will be a certain direction to the future?
Okay, so we can look to every great thinker to know the answer to this, which is you can definitively describe the world based on looking backwards, which is what everybody does, right? So I think the real answer is that we describe that the world that we think is gonna exist, and then we wait and just kind of see what surges forward, and then that's what we declare like is the truth.
So let's get into AI, right? Right now, sum it up for me. You've been to the trade show here, HumanX. You're deep into it. Yeah. You know, where is this going to take us? If it is a tsunami, is this going to overpower us, or will it be a wave that can be ridden?
I mean, well, I think two things. One, I think as a society, we're just going to ride this wave period. Like, this is going to happen. We can talk about regulatory, we can talk about different changes in different businesses, but in every way, this is going to occur. And you and I have been around long enough that we've seen this before.
Particularly me. Go ahead.
You know, I got some years in there, just a little less gray. But what's going to happen is the same way that the internet changed how commerce was going to work, that we're going to see AI change how every single job is essentially done, period. And so society is just going to experience that. It's going to be incredibly disruptive for certain people. It's going to be empowering for others while we get to the other end of it.
As you walk around here today, and we spent a lot of time on the show floor. I mean, I said flow, sure, but the show floor, you see a lot of the same thing, right?
It's killing me, right?
Right. You see, we build agents to assure trust. We build agents for security, for reliability. I kind of got it in the first 15 minutes. I'm worried that that's really where the bubble resides. It might not reside.
Greg, you think there's a bubble? Greg, no, we're all good. We're all good.
I think at that level, there's a bubble. When everyone's saying the same words, and I'm not talking about a market bubble. And look, every chip that can be manufactured is in use. That's real demand, and I agree with that. And, you know, human intelligence, there's never going to be a bubble with regard to human intelligence. And if it's 100x or 1,000x, however, a lot of what I'm seeing in these companies seem to reek of the same Claude marketing lingo and language, and that's what concerns me. What say you?
Yeah, we see the same thing every day, which is I saw 12 companies that all told us that they were the next Together AI. And that repeated for basically every single successful company has, 20 clones that are tackling it. What I would say is, number one, we should all recognize that the vast majority of those companies aren't going to be successful, period. I think differentiation is the name of the game for company building right now. Number two, I would say, is it totally makes sense. Because when you're in this wave of change, there's many great entrepreneurs that are seeing the same opportunity. So they're all then using the same words to describe what they're going to do. And one or two of those are going to be successful, and all the others are just going to go away. So I think it's appropriate to the level of change happening, but it means that there's going to be a whole wash of these businesses that just don't work. And that is, again, it's been true in every technology shift since the English Canal system to the .com internet to mobile to now. So I think all you can do is go in with that awareness as you build a company, and don't build another agentic workflow, which I literally got pitched by 2 walking from the stage out. Not that they're bad, but because they're just not differentiated. That the one is not going to win.
So what is the differentiating factor? What do you look for when you say, aha, that's got it? What's that special sauce?
It actually is that it's differentiated. It has to be different. It has to have a completely different approach to the business. Now, 2 examples. One could be in context. So assume AI is going to be everywhere, but we're building a new procurement system for large enterprises, and our AI is going to replace all the services dollars that Glaxo spends to review all their invoices. There's not 50 people telling that story. Can you access that customer? Can you build that product? Who knows? But that is a very differentiated context in which you're building. The second thing would be to do something that's very, very technically hard. Another coming wave, we'll see in the next HumanX event, is robotics. An example there is go and do something really, really technically hard that enables robots. Don't just show me another arm moving around on a physical intelligence driven model. Go do something hard. And those are both things that we look for when we're talking to companies, and it's surprisingly rare.
Right now, with the changing face of VC, do you feel as if the world's your oyster? Meaning, today there can be a founder with a great idea, 30 people, $1 billion company, right? Those take less money than what traditionally was required. Your early stage, does that play to your game?
I've been doing venture capital for 15 years, which, first of all, I'm incredibly lucky to do. It is a fun, joyful, exciting, lucrative, and it works job. That said, it's hard in every market. In this boom market, there's too many companies doing the same thing. In 2023, it was like, you cannot raise money. How do you use the money you've got to create a successful business? In generations before that, it was like, well, nothing is changing. Everything felt very static and uninteresting. So I think venture is actually always quite hard to be successful, to do the job well, to drive returns, to build meaningful companies. And just the hard right now is finding those differentiated businesses, because there's so much change going on. And commensurate with that, it makes it fun because there's so much opportunity, but the opportunity is probably not backing another agentic workflow for inference systems that helps employees
For the most
do their
trusted
job.
AI system.
Exactly.
Right?
I mean, Jesus Christ, you're killing me, right?
I hear you. Go back. Go to robotics. What do you think will be a year from now? How far will the leap be? How forward would it be? I mean, if you look back over 2025, everyone is amazed at the agent revolution. They were calling for it, but it hit hard. I think it's been adopted in a lot of places, a lot of ways. Do you think there'll be a deep seek moment in 2026 for robotics when everyone said start running?
Yeah, definitively. So that's why that's going to happen. That's why robotics is interesting, is because we're going to have a ChatGPT, a DeepSeek moment. And what's specifically going to happen is in robotics right now, it's very hard to do something that requires a lot of dexterity.
Absolutely.
That is going to change probably this year, where the same way models got really smart at answering questions.
What will drive that change? You're still going to have mechanics. This is the thing that I think about humanoid.
The brain is going to get better. The actuator, the mechanics is still going to be hard, but the brain will be smart enough that you'll be able to do things with robotics that used to be incredibly hard will get very, very easy this year.
And do you think they're going to be general use robots, or there'll be specific use? I have a hard time with the humanoid robot. Look,
just because it's the amount of fraud in that category, or because it's just very difficult to imagine that there's tons of humanoids running around with us every day.
We have a car, right? It does one thing. Do I really want a robot? Do I really need a robot that cuts my grass and folds my laundry? I mean, or do I need a device that folds my laundry? That's my question, I guess.
I'm skeptical. I'm bad at my job, and therefore I'm skeptical that we're going to have this wave of consumer robotics products. I'm just skeptical. I do think we're going to see robots that are purpose-built for lots of different environments. Some of those environments could be delivering carts in a hospital for lab samples that help improve efficiency.
They're not going to look human.
Yeah.
They're just going to be robotic carts.
I actually think robots are going to be just like dexterous hands that are on all different kinds of mobility devices and are just doing all kinds of different stuff. My belief is those things are going to be more factory settings, hospital settings, even public environments like this. I just don't, personally, I'm not a big believer in the consumer ones, but eventually we'll get like the iPhone-like thing, the Jetsons-like experience. But I think that's probably a long way off. But again, bad at my job. So
fast, I'm going to hit you with a couple rapid fires questions, right? One thing in AI that's been overhyped, do you think? How about underhyped?
I think the thing that has been underhyped is the scale of white-collar change that we're going to see from Anthropic. I think whether it's a financial analyst on my team, lawyers, I think those jobs I think the work you do in those jobs is going to change in such a deep way. It's almost impossible to grasp if you have that job right now.
And what happens then? Like, if you want to talk about civil unrest, it's one thing when a $15 an hour barista loses their job. It's another thing when a $300,000 a year financial analyst loses their job. That's a whole nother realm of anger.
I actually think it's two things. Number one is I'm more worried about that $15 barista because...
Why is that?
Because in this current social media climate, there's a lot of dangerous stories people tell about technology and societal shifts. They create a lot of unrest and a lot of pain and hurt and trauma in societies. And those are usually aimed at the people with the least access to power, the least access to money. So I'm nervous about that. And I think many, many, many people in society are. The second point on the changing doctor, lawyer, analyst job, I actually think those people are all going to be fine, in my opinion. Just that their job is going to change radically. The way they spend their time, the way my team spends our time when we analyze a company has already changed radically. Because all that you would have called research now gets done automatically by agents before I even showed up at the office. But the work then is go and spend real time with real humans, talking to customers, talking to the founders, talking to the founders' references in person. And so that intimacy matters. But it really changed the job. And I think that's going to be true in healthcare. It's going to be true in financial services. And so I think all those people will find new ways to be valuable. I'm pretty confident because we're seeing that in the development land and software engineering happen very quickly.
For sure.
And that's just going to happen everywhere. So lots of change, but less disruption, in my opinion. I am worried about societal disruption, but I haven't figured out what to do about that besides vote, think a lot about it.
So last question. I love this question from a West Coast VC. Where do you fall on the abundance train? How far is it? Will we get through the unrest to, in fact, for instance, unlimited clean energy, when all that could unlock, or longevity, what that could unlock? Where do you fall on that?
Yeah, and here I'm going to show my technology optimist roots. Is I think we're going to find ways that technology can make our days better and our lives better over time. The question is, like, how do we as a society and then as technologists help manage that process? But I ultimately believe that the world bends towards the path of the angels, and that's just my optimism showing.
Well, I love that optimism. I do share that with you. I think in the future, there'll be all kinds of options and opportunities which don't apply today. For instance, I believe there'll be the opportunity to get paid as a great parent. They can't get paid. Or teachers that make $150,000 a year because they're great teachers. So I share your optimism.
Maybe $300,000 a year. Let's pay those teachers right.
Yeah, really. But I share your optimism. And I thank you for being here. It's a great segment. I really appreciate it, Ross. And it's XYZ Ventures. Your website, real fast, give it a plug.
Yeah, it's xyz.vc. And you can always reach me at Fubini. That's Fubini at xyz.vc. We're easy to find.
Terrific. Thanks for your time, Ross.
Thank you, sir.
This podcast is a production of Gregory. If you enjoyed our discussion today and want to continue exploring the transformative power of AI, please check out more episodes and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts.